for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and just a reminder that Norton Media is here recording. If anybody else is, we also need to know that. All right, I guess we will get started. So, vote to approve the minutes of the June 8th and June 12th open session meetings. Did everybody have a chance to look them over? Any questions, comments, concerns? No? All right, is there a motion to approve? Do I have to do separate? Or do we
Yes.
do together?
You gotta do separate.
No, every.
I think we have to do it separate, but we're all there?
Separate.
Yeah, I thought it was. No, they're all.
Just because they're separate, there's some dates.
Yeah. Oh, we've always done it.
All right, so is there a motion to approve the June 8th, 2023 open session meeting?
So,
Second?
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve June 12th, 2023 open session meeting?
So moved.
The second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. And now introduction of,
Looks like Dr. Wong is not here yet, so if we
Okay.
can push that back, that would be
go to
great.
the warrants?
Yes, please.
Okay, I think Dan, you were gonna do that.
Yep.
Course.
Following warrants were signed at the conclusion of last school year up until through the summer. June 8th school expense warrant, $634,962.69. June 21st, $390,488.72. July 19th, $784,296. August 2nd, $144,915.40. August 16th, $386,359.09. August 30th, $265,079.46. School payroll warrant, June 15th, $5,886,34.45. June 29th, $221,875. June 30th, $27,522. July 13th, $139,639. July 27th, $242,039. August 10th, $240,331. August 24th, $226,369. Just enter these into the record.
All right. Student rep update.
Our student reps were not able to join us. One of them is in senior cruise, and
Oh, right.
the other had a previous commitment that they were not able to join us. So, wishing all of our seniors a great time, be safe tonight, and the senior cruise is disco themed. So,
Yes, I have
very,
someone
very
on
fun.
The senior
Yes.
cruise. And he's gonna kill me, but I'm like, Josh, what do you have to wear? He literally has like round sunglasses and his gold chain.
That works.
Buddy, in his American flag shirt. I'm like, buddy, that's not even close to disco.
That's fine. It's gonna have a great time.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, so we'll just go on to opening of school remarks with Principal Marty Gagan.
Well, good evening. Thank you for having me tonight and being able to host. First few weeks have been hot and humid, but they've been actually tremendous. The teachers and students have outdone themselves. They continue to amaze me each and every day with how well they've been able to adjust. As you know, that third floor in this building gets very, very warm, and with the humidity, it was very rough, but the kids, and like I said, the staff did phenomenally. So as I try to do with my newsletters and Twitter feed and things like that, is try to have you get a glimpse of what we do here at the L. So I've broken down that wall again and try to put together a little slideshow for you to kind of put the words, the pictures of what we've done in the last 9 days. But so far, this is where we are. So our awesome PTO chalked a walk for the kids before the first day of school, and it lasted up until the tornadic episode last night. But basically, at every entrance that the kids come in, back door, front doors, we were able to have the kids see like all these awesome messages and pictures by the PTO. I can't thank them enough. And then our first, we call it hashtag first 3 days, but it really ends up being probably about the first 2 weeks. It is really about just building relationships with the kids. and trying to get to know them, have them get to know our teachers, to kind of have that foundation of a great relationship to then build upon it, the learning that will happen. And so in every class, they were doing like group activities. They were doing fun kind of games to get to know one another and figure out who they are. Team building activities. So there's just a few snapshots of kind of what went on those few days. Here's a few more of the first week overall. And so the kids, here's a paper chain that they had built here in the library. Here's the team, or the school mascot, as I called it, the old new school mascot being myself. And then we have kids just working together, kids getting to know the library on Friday. We still have library. And then this week kind of turns the page, literally and figuratively, to basically get into the learning and activities and kids getting into their groups. And I caught this when they were handed out Hatchet in 5th grade. Then you got some learning centers happening. Here's some math centers, which I always love seeing kids in every nook and cranny of the rooms, hallways, doing activities to kind of get themselves learning together. Learning, we have our new Stepping Stones curriculum where the kids take their, it's not called a workbook, but it's called a learning log, where they're learning and starting to answer some questions about math. Here we have some more kids writing all about me, writing about books that they loved. Some STEAM work together I was able to catch. I also wanted to highlight the new tables and chairs that are in our STEAM room. It was a beautiful air-conditioned STEAM room that we used last week. That was great. We still love using the turf field for PE and for recess. Got some good shots of that, and it was actually not rainy or cloudy or sunny. It was actually a very nice day at that point. The smiles are always great. We love our ST Math with Gigi running on the screen. Kids love that. Math practicing, writing out their thinking as they continue to do math. Kids, like I said, like in every nook and cranny, always kind of doing things. So here's some math center work, art class, them kind of starting to draw what's going to end up being our mural for the front that Mrs. Kabat put together. And more kind of like choice. Again, in our centers, they sometimes have choice in what they can do to show their learning. And I just always love catching that. More math practice. Here's some Harry Potter. That kid's so happy that I was taking his picture, and also that he loves himself some Harry Potter and some Jim Dale reading it. But some reading time. They were in here playing with some Legos last week, creating, which I just thought was so much fun. And then we wanted to thank Dr. O'Neill for the great popsicles that she supplied the kids. And I believe even last night when a student walked in, said, "You're Dr. O'Neill. You bought us popsicles last week. Thank you so much."
So cute.
Very sweet kid, Mandy. And then we also have our 5th grade announcement kids that each week they get to sign up. I get attacked on like who's going to do which week. We have it booked through next April for the kids to do it. This was our first group. They said, make sure we're in the presentation, so there they are. And then we are lucky enough to have band back for 5th grade, which we're so excited. So here Mr. Dufresne was going over band with the kids this week and how we're going to run it this week with 5th grade. I think it's going to run really, really well with 5th grade. If you talk to the band kind of people, Dr. Bianca, they will say 5th grade's probably a good place to kind of start it anyway. So I think we're going to be really good, and if you see there,
So
we
can I
have
just
a
ask
lot
a
of
question?
kids interested.
Yeah, is that like a class time, or is that just kids that are interested in
These
band?
were kids that came down during LLT time, our RTI block time, to just get a handle on who we will do. And so we asked all the kids that did it last year as 4th graders, which was about 45.
Wow.
And we had 60 kids total in there. We do have about 12 new 5th graders that are interested, that came from other districts, and just some kids I think that wanted to get out of class and come down to this. But we'll see how many we have. But there were 60 kids that were there during that time. We're continuing our good news calls of the day. Mr. Bilal and I do that. Anyone can get nominated for good news calls of the day. It is easily the best thing that I've ever done educationally, and it's just the most fun I can have in education with kids, is calling parents, seeing just how excited they are. This was a new student in our school, into Norton, who the parent was like, I've never gotten a good news call, and she's in education. She's like, this is one of the greatest things. I said, I can't take credit for it. I took it from 610, Mr. Higgins there. But I can say that we use it a lot. We did 326 good news calls last year total. Our hope this year is 350. We're really edging for 360, 2 a day. But it's just phenomenal. So I got.
Can you just explain, like, are you calling home and then that's the child talking to the parent after?
So what ends up happening is anyone in the school can nominate any student that they see doing something great, doing something good for them, doing something that impressed them for that hour, for that last hour, for these just 5 minutes. This kid did a great thing. Nominate them for a good news call. They send Mr. Bilala, our Dean of Students, and myself an email saying that, listen, we'd love to do a good news call for this one student. I then, or Bob, calls the parent and says, we've got this student here, they did something great, we explain it, we then put the child on the phone, and the parent says how proud they are. They get a purple hashtag, they get a coin to go to the book vending machine, they get a book, they snap their picture, they get Twitter famous, and then we put them on the TV out there so that it keeps basically playing over so that all the kids can see who's gotten one so far. And then again, the book vending machine this year, just like last year, it's just been absolutely incredible. The kids just walk by in awe and think, when can I get my good news call, or when can I collect enough hashtags so that I can get I can turn in for a coin. So we've done so far, I believe Bob and I are up to 15 so far on day 8, day 9. So we're on pace to get to our 350. And now that we have our Zoom phones, we actually don't have these cordless ones that kids don't know how to hold, but yet sort of know how to hold. But now we got these things, and they have no idea what we're doing. You just put them on speaker, which we can, and then we fake some of the pictures. So some of these are fake pictures because we actually did it on speaker. And then these are 2 kids that so far have already collected the hashtags. So we walk around, we have these hashtags, like I said, Bob and mine are worth 5 points each. The teachers are worth 1 point, or a para can hand them out, and that's worth 1 point. Once they hand in 50, they're able to do it. And these young people, 5th grade and 4th grade, were our first for the year to get 50 hashtags. And then
So, is it necessarily their teacher passing it out, or like a
Anyone.
teacher in the hallway?
Anyone, PE teacher, anyone can do it, anyone can do a good news call. And then we still do Positive Sign Thursday. I personally am, this is my, I believe, 9th year of doing Positive Sign Thursday, where we have something nice said on the message on the piece of paper, and then we snap some pictures of the kids. And then last night we had our curriculum night, and these parents risked life and limb to come in to hear about curriculum. God bless them, and they're diehards, and that they had some tough questions for us. But yeah, they came in last night to hear about our curriculum because we made a lot of changes in the last few years, and it's also good for them to hear just changes of if they have, say, a 10th grader and now they have a 4th grader. Things are different just from those few years, or if they're just reflecting back on their own 4th or 5th grade year, things are a lot different than what they were then. So it's good for them to kind of hear and see what we're doing. And as I said, Karen was awesome about getting our TV screen up and running, so now the kids can kind of see it playing, and they walk by here very slowly to kind of catch the glimpse of maybe themselves or their peers. And it's been great, and we're hoping to continue a great year. I guess I'll take any questions or.
That's a lot of good stuff for the first week and a half. That's a lot. Yeah, no, thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments or anything?
Awesome. Good stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marty.
Thanks.
All right, oh yeah, go ahead.
That's you.
Yeah, Are we gonna go back?
Yeah, let's go
Okay.
back if you'd like.
All right, so we'll do the introduction of Dr. Bella Wong, interim superintendent in Natick Public Schools, and then superintendent mentor.
Yes,
So if you
perfect.
wanna take that?
Yep, so first of all, I would like to thank the committee for giving me the opportunity to be a part of the new superintendent induction program, which is offered through the Mass Association of School Superintendents. We started this summer with a full day orientation and getting to know the other superintendents that are part of our cohort, and really talking about the importance of entry planning as you're coming into a new role, whether you are in a new community or like me, you have the opportunity to serve in this role in a community where you've been for a long time. I'm very lucky to have Dr. Bella Wong as my superintendent mentor. Dr. Wong has been a superintendent for many years and recently technically retired, although she has found it hard to give up the role and is serving as the interim superintendent in Natick. And it's been really wonderful to have someone to bounce ideas off of and just to chat and get feedback. The role is new and, we're all learning as we go, but she's been a wonderful mentor. So I'd like to thank her for coming tonight and introduce you to her. Would you like to?
And if I could just say hello, thank you for welcoming me to your school committee meeting today, and I'm glad that I didn't have to risk life and limb to get here tonight. I could drive and not be in a rowboat, and so I lucked out because tomorrow is another story. I understand. So it is my privilege to be assigned to Dr. O'Neill to coach her. So the NSEP program started 13 years ago. So Dr. O'Neill is officially part of cohort 14. So the 14th cohort of all new superintendents, and the coaches include actually people from cohort 1 and people that have participated in NSEP before. And I'm one of 4 new coaches, so I am recently retired and I'm also the interim superintendent in Natick. But it's really great, and I feel very fortunate to be assigned to Jennifer. And just so you know, there's a set curriculum. It focuses on the district's teaching and learning plan and plans for equity. And it also is intentionally support the superintendent in building the capacity of district and school leaders and of the faculty and of the whole district all together. And then just generally working on building leadership skills. But of course, she already has some strong skills since you've appointed her as your superintendent. And so I'm just really happy to see you. And so my role is to also come and observe when she's working in her capacity. So I'll be in schools, and I was able to be part of her retreat during the summer as well. And so I'm very privileged to work with her, and thank you for the opportunity.
Welcome to Norton.
Oh, thank you. I don't know if you had any questions about the program.
So do you come in like weekly, or how often are you guys together, or?
So we can set up a weekly time, and then I can come and observe if she's doing tours of schools or when she's meeting with her administrative team. And so I wanted to be here at her first school committee meeting. I will probably watch meetings virtually, so just again to be able to observe and give feedback as she's serving her role.
Okay.
So is it one-on-one you and Jen, or do you have like another person you're mentoring as well?
I have another person that I'm also coaching, and so all the time with Jennifer is just Jennifer, and then anyone else I'm coaching is just their time. Though we come together, so we have monthly content days, and there's one next week. So the whole cohort comes together, all of cohort 14. So that's really nice because it creates a group. Hopefully they'll bond and network from this time forward. So all new superintendents that are in NSEP are part of cohort 14. We meet all together.
Yeah, that was my next question, is how many are actually in the cohort?
Yeah, so
I believe there's roughly 22 of us this year.
there's
somewhere
22.
Low 20s.
Yeah, it's about that many, yeah.
Which is, and some are brand new to their district, some are, similar to me where they were in a district and they just changed positions. And then I think we have 1 or 2 superintendents that were superintendents in another state before coming to Massachusetts. And as Dr. Wong mentioned, we meet every single month. They alternate, so during the month of September we meet together in person, and it's a full day, which will be next Tuesday. And then the alternating months are virtual. And it's more of a half-day model where we
Right.
get together and really dive into content.
The coaches also have monthly meetings and monthly trainings. I just had a full day in-person training for the coaches. So we talk about case studies, and we also try to make sure that we're doing the best we can to support our new superintendents.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you. Thanks
Okay.
for coming.
Thank
Great,
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll go back to the agenda, and we have superintendent entry plan.
So, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go stand up this way. So instead of just having you guys here in the audience tonight and everyone in the audience at home, I also have Dr. Wong, who's going to be critiquing me. So, you know, oh, thank you, Karen. Okay, so as part of the new superintendent induction program, we are all coached through the process of writing an entry plan for our new role as superintendent. So I'm going to take you through my entry plan this evening, and the committee has the full version of the document here. The slides are just kind of the key areas, and this will be shared tomorrow in my bi-weekly newsletter to families, as well as with our staff, so they can really get a good understanding of exactly what this process is going to be about. So the purpose of going through an entry process is really to have the opportunity to listen and learn to members of our school community, teachers, students, parents, the wider, broader community as in terms of community members. And it's also a great opportunity for the staff and families of Norton to get to know me in a different light. I've been here for 20 years, first as a teacher, and then as an administrator. So I do have the luxury of knowing a lot of our students and families, but it's really a good opportunity for me to get to know them in a different way. So throughout the process, I'm going to be looking at 3 core areas. The first one is the experience of our students, and really looking closely at how do we provide all of our students with a quality education that will help them to foster their own personal development, but also help them grow as global citizens and help their intellectual growth as well. I'm going to be looking at ways that we engage the school community. How do we partner with families? We know that our families are our students' first teachers, and they play such an important role in the lives of our students. How can we bring them closer into the fold, that they have a good understanding of what happens in our schools from day to day, but we can also hear from them on what their own hopes and dreams are for their children, and how we as partners in their child's education can help to support those goals. And then finally, I'm going to be looking at the organizational capacity of the NPS as a whole. This will include looking at perceived strengths and opportunities for growth, looking at the way that we allocate our resources, looking at structures of leadership, structures of our schools, and really making sure that we're operating in a way that makes sense for our students, both academically, but also financially for the district as we move forward. So there are 3 phases of this entry plan, and right now I am in phase 1, and this will be basically all of the fall. It's really listening and learning, getting to know what's going on. I began fresh out of the gate on July 1 when I came into this new role. In the winter, I will go through a process of data analysis and reflection, looking at all the information that I've collected through phase 1 and seeing ways that we can make some improvements. And then I'll be coming back to the committee in the beginning of March to share all of my work with you, to lead you through the data that I received, talk about my interactions with students and families and other community members, and to also make recommendations for how we should move forward as a district. As some of us know, we presented a new strategic plan to the committee last year, which was called Vision 2026. And so we don't want to throw away what's already been done, but we want to make sure that what is in that strategic plan is aligned with the needs and goals of our community as we see them now, and also what's important to our teachers and to our staff as we move forward under new leadership as well. So throughout this first process, this listen and learn phase, I've had the opportunity to speak with a lot of school community members already. I've met with all members of the school committee, all members of our leadership team. I've met with our town manager, Mr. Units. I've met with both the chief of police and the fire chief, veterans agent, our council on aging representative, and also working to meet with our local state representatives and state senators as well. And the conversations have really centered around what are the strengths of Norton as a school community and what are our challenges. For those of us who've been here for a while, we know that finances is always one of our biggest challenges. I asked people to tell me what they love about Norton and the things that are so important to them that they don't want to see them go away. I asked them ways that we could partner better with the town and be a stronger part of the community of Norton. I asked people to tell me what they felt needed my immediate attention as I took on this role and what they were hoping to see from me as their new superintendent. These conversations were so wonderful and really, really valuable to me. It was so interesting to see different patterns emerge as I talked to a variety of community members. So that work that I've done to inform the conversations that I'm going to be having now that school has started. Now that school has started, I'm going to be doing focus groups with students, being in all the buildings and meeting with staff, meeting with our parent groups such as our CPAC and site councils and parent boards. Also looking really specifically to talk to our educators, see what they are hoping for as we move Norton forward, and also making sure we're engaging the Norton Teachers Association as well. This fall I will be doing a huge amount of teaching and learning. One of the things that I've just scheduled with the building principals are school-based residencies. That will include a full day in every school, welcoming kids in the morning, as they're coming in, all the way till they leave at the end of the day, making sure that I'm in classrooms, at lunch and at recess with students, and making sure that I'm talking with staff and seeing what teaching and learning looks like, really getting a true understanding of what that student experience is on a daily basis. I'll also be working with the larger leadership team. Every other month we'll be doing learning walks where we're looking specifically at areas of practice around our integrated multi-tiered systems of supports, specifically looking at ways teachers differentiate their instruction for the students in their classroom and the way that they design their lessons so that all students have access. And then finally, I'll be doing a document review, really kind of getting elbows deep in a lot of our data. I have the privilege of already being pretty comfortable with a lot of the academic data, but looking at student discipline, looking at financial reports over a few years. Also really looking at the structure of our facilities, emergency plans, our strategic plan, and also student enrollment trends. We're seeing some changes in our community and we need to be prepared for what that means for capacity in our schools. I'm really excited to begin this process. The questions came up very quickly. Must have to talk about something else. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions you have about the entry plan, the entry process. And over these next few weeks, I'm very excited to get into schools and classrooms and to continue meeting with more shareholders.
So one question, so I know you said you started meeting with some of our town leaders, have any of those conversations drawn any surprises, like anything you didn't expect them to bring up, or that you can publicly talk about?
No, I think that I think that the conversations that I had with our town officials, I've also met with representatives from the select board and FinCom. There were no surprises. I think that as a community, we really all want to have the opportunity to work together and to do what's in the best interest of the citizens and children of Norton. And I think probably the most common thread is that there's never enough to go around. And that's something that, preaching to the choir here for those who are in the audience, we know that the pie is only so big. We've talked a lot about the need for long-term planning as a community. How can we look at what the needs of the school department are alongside the needs of the police and fire and our other departments, and say, what are our goals as a community 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road? So those are some conversations that I've had. I don't think there was anything surprising, at least from my perspective.
Are folks being receptive to the open communication as well?
Yes, I feel like the conversations have gone well. I think people were a little surprised, I think, at first to hear from me and reaching out, but they've been very receptive. And you know, what I have said is, we want to be a partner in the work that we do. I want to have an open line of communication. I don't want there to be surprises, and I think that it's really important that if we have something that we need to be able to go, and Christine will have an example of, you know, how we're trying to work with other departments in our capital plan when she talks about that tonight too. Dinesh?
So I have a thought or an observation and some advice as well, yes.
Thank you.
So you haven't heard yet. The observation is, when I read through this, so you use opportunity for growth, which I'm going to take as a euphemism for a weakness, right?
Growth mindset.
As I read through this, it was positive to me, which is not a bad thing. But sometimes your weaknesses, the things you're failing at, are the places that you can make the quickest incremental growth. So while it's great to say, hey, what do we do well, and you know, can we expand on that? Don't lose sight of where we fail.
Absolutely.
Everyone's failing at things. It just is what it is, right? It's not a black mark against anybody. It doesn't mean that we're bad as a district. But again, like the low-hanging fruit is sometimes that stuff right there, right? It's the easy stuff that if you can just fix this, it's going to make a ton of people happy. So
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
don't avoid the hard conversations. And my advice to you is to avoid what's called confirmation bias, because you've been in this district for a long time, and so you already are going to have, again, human nature, you have a preconceived notion about what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, et cetera, et cetera. And confirmation bias is you go in and you say, okay, I accept the information that confirms what I already believe, and the information that goes against that, I tend to dismiss. So be careful about that trap. You know, go in with a completely open mind and say, okay, I'm going to take the data that I get, and whether it confirms what I believe or completely disavows it, I'm going to accept the data as it is, and we're going to move forward with that. Because that trap is the killer of anything like this. When someone says, I already know what the results are going to be, and I'm ready to work on what I think the results are, and the results are something different, and you ignore that and just move forward with your own plan. So just be careful on that.
No, I appreciate that, and I think from my perspective, I agree. I've been here for a long time. I do know a lot of the strengths and weaknesses in a particular area. And so I'm trying to really be thoughtful and careful about using my new lens to look at things from a much more holistic perspective. But I do appreciate that. I'll definitely make sure to tread lightly in that regard.
Anybody have anything else? Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, did you say, I might have missed it, is the entry plan part of the mentorship program?
It actually is part of the new superintendent induction program, yes. So it's one of my assignments that I have to complete successfully, and it's one
I
of
don't see Dr. Wong's red pen here.
it's one of our deliverables. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
All right, so next up we have review and vote on capital improvement plan. Christina, you doing that one?
Yeah.
She is.
Okay, you're up.
Okay, so we're gonna use the same format that we've been using the past year. So for our capital items, we're starting with the security and safety. We are seeking to install new fire protection devices for that communicates with our new fire panel. We need more updated devices for our building at the North Middle School, so we're looking for that. It is a safety issue, which Dr. Rennell has reached out to Chief Simmons for support on that, and we do have that support. So we're hoping for that one. And the next one is the safety requirement protocols for the exterior access points. This is video entry system, intercoms, door access controls with key fobs, and also a double door entry system at the middle school with updated intercoms that communicate with the secretary and any visitors that come in over there. The
Don't we
next,
already have the second one, the video entry and intercom? Don't we have?
more updated.
Oh, okay, so it's updating it, okay.
Yes, and for the middle school.
The second best, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know that one.
Also with the door access, right now, all of our buildings, especially the elementary schools where students go out for recess, there are a number of doors where it's a key entry. And so what we're hoping to do is put the fobs there, so that way if a key gets lost, it's very difficult to now maintain the safety of that door. Where if a fob gets lost, you can shut off, you can turn off access to that fob, and then therefore, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to add access points
Okay.
with the fobs too.
So that's district-wide, so that's, not necessarily the front, it's the whole building. Okay.
The next one is the second exit access road at the middle school. That is near the Bicentennial Park. You've probably already seen the base layer down. We're looking for the final top coat. We did do this in the spring as well for $45,000, and it has increased to $75,000. So we're actually thinking of pulling this due to the time of year and talking to the superintendent at DPW and pushing it off to the spring.
So it went up $30,000 in a few
Yes,
months.
yep. The next is under the Student Achievement and Equity, and that is the technology displays. They're the interactive communication boards, and we are asking for a phased approach here, but we're going to start with the middle school for the $182,000. The next is the purchase of new classroom furniture. This is district-wide, also a phased approach. The current furniture is outdated, and a lot of it doesn't support a lot of the technologies that we currently have now in the classrooms. The next is to replace the old and outdated equipment and curtains for the auditorium at the Norton Middle School. The lighting system and stage curtains are from 1998, and the tech is too old the technology that's too old to support the existing equipment, and we can't go out to get new breakers for it or anything like that, because they don't make it anymore.
So this is not a huge deal, but why is that under student achievement and equity and not under facilities?
That's a great question. Could just
A
be
little bit of both, I guess.
Yeah, I
What
think
are your
they were
drama
thinking
clubs?
of
What was
the
School activities.
using
Yeah.
it for the drama club and other community,
It still strikes me as a facilities, quite frankly, but whatever.
yeah.
It's, and again, it's not a huge deal,
Yeah,
but
we can move it down,
it's,
yeah.
it's, I guess it's fungible in the end, right? So.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. And then your favorite word.
And and then the next one is the refinishing the gym floors. This is for the LGN JCS middle school. The first one that we were going to focus on is the gym floors at the middle school. Those are also from 1998, and it's also our busiest gym for the community, for the students and the outside.
So resurfacing, I'm assuming that just means sanding and we're not ripping them up and putting
Yeah,
them down.
yeah.
So the middle school, the 35,000, that's exactly what it would be. It would be resurfacing, where at JCS and LGN, they have the rubberized floors, which is number one, a much bigger project. And specifically at LGN, due to the age of the building, we would have to likely go through a full asbestos abatement as well.
So I have a couple
Good.
of questions.
Yeah,
thanks.
Did you have some?
No, I'll go up to you.
So, one of my questions was actually on something that we're doing in the future. And it may actually apply to something that we're looking to do in the coming year. The stuff that we have under parking lots, the
Yeah.
one at the L1 district-wide, are we able to use the parking revolving funds for that?
No.
And if,
We went through this discussion years ago, the parking revolving can only be used for high school projects.
so one of these is district-wide, right? So we could use it for that.
I believe that's also available for that. Because I remember the discussion was buying a plow truck for the middle school to
Yes.
sidewalks, which we couldn't do, but we had to buy it for the high school and repurpose it to the middle school because it's parking lot.
So when the parking lot revolving account was created for Norton High School, the language in it talks about the funds are only eligible for use for the Norton High School parking lot. So over time, we've relined, we've paved, we've installed sidewalks, or all of that are allowable expenses through that revolving account. And, you know, even to me, like, Yale School kind of connects to the high school, but again, it's only for Norton High School.
So we could do it for whatever the district-wide portion of the high school is.
Correct.
Okay. So, and then my second thought is, we're voting on this tonight.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not trying to delay the vote, but I think it probably makes sense this year and in the future. We should just grab the 5-year plan for the town, capital 5-year plan that the town sure has, and take a look at that alongside this, so that we kind of get a sense of, okay, are there years where they're like, they're gonna be heavily looking through capital improvements, and years where they're doing less, and maybe we can kind of, kind of puzzle piece these in so that we're, you know, we're up in down years for them, and vice versa. So, just a thought, we should probably, maybe for the next meeting, just grab theirs and take a look at it and see how it jives with this.
Does the town usually have that for the capital?
They've got a
Yeah,
5-year
we
plan.
do, yeah,
Jesus.
there is. So every department comes up with their own, so it's really like piecing it together, right? So you
But
have
they've
to
got
take
one
all of their,
entirely too. Otherwise, we just manage.
I just looked because we have our meetings coming up, but we don't have, she didn't email me the information yet.
It's next Wednesday, I believe.
Wednesday, it's
Yeah,
Wednesday,
20th.
20th at 6 o'clock.
And then the 27th.
So the way that this capital plan is set up, we, separated it into the, different categories, because for us, the fire protection upgrade of the devices at Norton Middle School is our #1 safety upgrade. As Christine mentioned, it's the original systems that were put in there. They currently connect to our new fire panel. However, if one of them goes out, we're not able to replace it. The systems they're old, they're from 1998, and when talking with Chief Simmons, he was like, I'm surprised. They usually last a little bit longer, but unfortunately, whatever was purchased at that time has been phased out, and therefore, so if any one thing goes out, we can't replace it with something that will now talk. So what this would do with the 127,055, this has actually been on our capital plan for 5 years. It started at about 55,000, and as you can see, the significant increase over the years. This would actually allow full replacement of all the devices at Norton Middle School. So that way, we are not looking at piecemealing things as they go down, and this would, kind of set us up at long term. And when I explained, and Wade explained that to Chief Simmons, we're like, safety is our #1 priority. We want to make sure that all our students and staff are safe. And he agreed that it was definitely a good time to do this. So, and then for student achievement and equity, the technology displays, getting Norton Middle School online with Promethean boards. We have hanging projectors in some classrooms. Some classrooms have projectors on carts. We have a few staff members that have Promethean boards because they wrote a LEAD grant. And so just the equity component there for students is they're all getting a different educational experience, especially as they're coming up from the Yale School where they had a lot more access. And then, the next phase would be updating Norton High School, which is now a 10-year-old renovation and addition project. And those smart boards that are there are very much at end of life. Karen's team has driven to other districts to get smart boards that were being thrown away. So that way, if one of ours goes out, that we have a replacement. So we're getting down to the edge on that one.
So Sherry, this is maybe a question for you, but can you refresh my memory, like capital improvements, I know all the departments go there, but would they ever, so say this 127, would the improvement committee say we'll give you 75,000 of that, or is it all or nothing in the request? we ever get like a partial fulfillment of that
In all
request?
my years, I don't think it's ever been a partial, it's
Okay.
what
So
you,
it's all or
it's
none.
it's all what you asked for. Yeah, so, and that's because we're meeting the 20th and the 27th, and I think our next meeting isn't until the 28th is. So,
Next meeting.
our next
Yes.
meeting is the 28th, so we're meeting prior to that. Because, you know, looking at this, you know, I've sat on capital for a lot of years now, and, you know, going in with a $777,000 request is,
It's laughable.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, you know, typically what we do is we sit down and we kind of prioritize what we really need to, I mean, listen, we all know that we need everything that's on here, you know, but I need to figure out what we really need to be able to, you know, talk to them about that.
Absolutely, so that's why we try to do it this way, so if you look at the first on the security and safety, that's our number one.
Yeah,
And I would say, that, you know, the doors would be number two, and then technology displays is number three for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
okay. I like the way you did this, by the way.
So we
Yeah,
Tell Christine.
yeah, I like it.
we also should start thinking about what's gonna escalate in cost quickest too, right? Because we keep getting bit in the ass by this, like, what did the fire start at, 55,000?
55, roughly
And,
5 or
you
6
know,
years ago.
it's close to 3x now.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you have to bite the bullet and fund something quickly because you know it's gonna escalate. And if there are things that we know or we suspect are gonna escalate quicker than others, I think those should, I'm not saying safety's not the priority, it obviously is. But, like, you know, above and beyond that, you have to start thinking about that too. Because otherwise, this is just a one-year plan,
Right.
quite frankly.
Right,
You know,
absolutely.
so,
Well, I feel like the top two safety, like you said, they've been on this plan for a while.
Absolutely, yeah.
We just keep moving it along, so,
And the technology displays for the middle school have been on there for quite a while as
Yeah.
well, so,
I know we've
that's my
done some,
recommendation.
we do some, with the capital plan, we have done some,
Yes, that
Like-
was here at the Yale School was the last time. Karen,
Yeah.
do you know how many years ago that was? 2?
Probably
I was gonna say, I feel like it was more recent.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
We actually filled in, we have some new classes, some new special education, and we did not anticipate needing boards for those. We kind of went exactly to the numbers that we had at the time,
Okay,
maybe one extra. So we did have to kind of backfill,
okay,
and that was a request that we did put in.
okay.
I think a good segue into this is kind of just looking at this. I know something we do is like, we like label them off in terms of like A prime, B, C, D, and then kind of get a better picture of like, that way things don't sit on here for 5 years. If it was a D the year before, let's move it up to a C. If it was a C, you know, then hopefully, you know, as those A prime, and again, this could all change too. It's all, as you say, fungible. You know, from a standpoint of if it's a safety concern, we might have not had it on our capital plan, then we could jump it up to an A prime because we have to get it done.
Yeah.
So I think like maybe looking at it that way wouldn't be a bad idea. And then I think there's a few things on here though that like, my biggest question is, I know we're getting one quote. Are we quoting this out 3 times, like we're supposed to do on the municipal side? Okay.
Yes.
Can we get that information too? Yeah, I mean, I would love to see like other quotes in here to see like, what are we looking at? Are we going with the top of the line? Is the middle of the road? You know, are we at the low end and saying this is the lowest we can come in, this is the best we have? Just to kind of be a little bit more transparent. And then I think, I've dealt with this company before, and this is, Simeon's is great. They're top of the line model, they're wonderful. My issue with them is, and I'm gonna screw up this word, but they're proprietary. So you can't do anything else unless it's by Siemens. So, or Siemens, whatever. Siemens, great, thanks. So the issue is, when we say the pole's out, you gotta replace it, we gotta go with them. We don't have a choice. So the issue is when you're tying it back to that panel and how we're looking at this is we're handcuffing ourselves as a district. Now, again, if I was sitting in the high-rise building, I wouldn't pick another company. If I'm sitting as a taxpayer looking at this, I would be like, why are we going with the top-of-the-line model? Let's find something that the fire department's gonna sign off on. We're gonna be able to do this. And even if it saves us $20,000, it saves us $20,000, and maybe we can knock off parking spots and doing a school over. I think with capital planning, I think us as a committee, we can kind of sit down a little bit better. Because I said this to Joe and Wade last year, the HVAC system in this school needed to be done. Did a great job on it. It's not the wow factor, it's not the showy. We need to have a balance of what that looks like. you need to have the facility stuff, you need to have the infrastructure, but you also need to, at points, have something that's like, hey, the security system on all our doors just got re-upped, this is what we're doing, you know? So I think if we can kind of tie in all of that and make it a little bit better and clearer of like mixing those two together, I think is a great start. I mean, and like I said, I think overall, I mean, I'm a little concerned with that quote because $127,000, that doesn't include electrician hooking everything up for us.
I believe it does. I believe that's all in and labor.
Is that,
It says
No?
right here, Norton School
No?
will be required to hire an electrician directly.
that, in, like you said, it was
Yeah.
for the Siemens
Mhm.
product and had to use that to communicate with fire panels.
Correct, exactly. And the problem is when you handcuff yourself like
Yeah.
this, 1998 is not that old for a fire
It's
panel.
not.
You know, I bet if you go to town hall, I bet there's 40-year-old panels, you know. So, not, again, as long as they're passing codes of what we
Yes.
need to do, you know, and the fire department's comfortable with them, let's face it, the men and women down there are a lot smarter when it comes to that stuff. They're signing off on it, we should probably be good with it. So my concern is if we go somewhere else, we can get an all-in quote, see where we're at, and then, I don't know another company, but if you bring in another company who says, hey, you know what, we don't have to work on them, you can buy a stock from some private company, you can have Cliff Archer come in here and do the electrical work for us, however we want to kind of set it down and do it. I feel like it might make a little bit more sense than just going with them and then being tied to them. Because then when they upgrade that technology, you know what they're going to tell you? That pole's only 12, it's 12 years old, 20 years old, you got to replace it, we have the new technology in here for you. And now it's, boom, here's another $127,000 in 10 years. So
Did you just say, are we already tied into them though because of what we currently have? Did you just say that or no?
I believe so. I believe that's what Ray told us, is that the devices have to talk to the new fire panel, so.
But
So
the
it
new
sounds
fire
like
panel,
we're-
but a new fire panel is like a few grand.
So the fire panel was upgraded probably, I'm gonna say 3 years ago.
I think it was
gonna say that
19.
was-
Okay, yeah, that sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying
Yeah.
is if we look at the bigger picture here, right, and we can get someone else to come in, and the new fire panel's gonna cost us an extra, call it 10 grand.
Mhm.
If we can get a company in here, and now we're not handcuffed down in the future, I would rather put a new panel in there and say, hey, listen, 3 years ago, we kinda messed up, we didn't wanna get our stuff stuck in here, we're gonna fix this now. So hopefully in 10, 15, 20 years, when the handle pulls, or something, sprinkler head goes out, we need to fix it, we can call 3, 4, 5, 7 different companies and not just one.
Did you get other quotes for that or just from them?
For this, just the Siemens.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about the process? So
Sure.
it says in here that this quote is valid for 30 days from the delivery date of 7/28/23. So this is not a valid quote right now.
So oftentimes, and at least in my experience in purchasing curriculum materials, which I used to do a lot of, they would give you a quote and then you would say, hey, can you extend the date on the quote? And majority of the time they're able to do that unless there's a huge increase in materials or something during that time. Have you had that same experience in terms of,
Yes,
pushing the
and
date?
then once, I think in the spring, I believe we gave updated quotes closer to
Yeah.
the meeting.
So, in terms of the fire protection devices, I think my recommendation is that we should be sure that our number one priority on the capital plan. We can go back and have a conversation with Wade and take a look at getting other quotes and seeing perhaps what our options are there. And then, we have a few days that we could potentially update the cost, but I do think it's a necessity.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not.
Yes,
I'm not saying
no,
that we need it.
absolutely, and
I just-
I understand your point now.
Like, my fear is 98, obviously, what's the 25 years old now, give or take. These panels should be lasting a lot longer, right? And I
Yes.
don't want, my concern is if all of a sudden we tie ourselves to them, and in 10 years, do you have version 8.5, just like your phones, and all of a sudden, now your phone battery starts dying, it's the same thing, that's what these companies do. And they're holding us saying, well, you can't replace that because you have to replace it with our product. Oh, great. Yeah. It's like the town, it's like with us with
It's not
cable.
the product, it's the service. It's the service contract.
Yeah, so it's, I'm not saying the product's great, but again, they're a wonderful company, but it's just from a taxpayer standpoint, I feel like we might want to explore the options of doing something different, looking at someone else, you know, I know obviously Help, they do a ton of fire stuff as well. I don't know if they could do something, if we tie that in with the doors, can we get it at a discount, because now they're already here, contractors here, workers are here, all that fun stuff, I don't know. But I just like, again, my concern is just slamming through another thing here, and then we're gonna be in the same situation in 10 years, being like, oh, our fire pole went, and now we can't do anything besides go through the same company again.
So if, just kind of piggybacking, if we were to solicit bids through the process, I assume that bid would have to include a new panel, because if it's a Siemens panel now, and it's a, you know, whatever the company X, that, so potentially it would go up, because we'd have to do a panel, as well as everything accompanying, so now we're, you know, on the flip side, what you're saying, now we're into it for more to go with another company, so it's like, we're kind of you know, we might be doing the same thing with company B,
Yeah.
paying more upfront and also maybe only getting 10 years, so it's, I think it's a calculated risk to go out to bid, to be honest with you, I just.
Yeah, I mean, I think doing bids, that's why you do them. Is to figure out, you know, hey, you know, and again, the biggest thing with when anyone does a bid, you gotta make sure it's apples to apples and not apples to oranges.
100%.
Because Help could put something together and then be like, all right, we're gonna do exactly what you know, Simeon said, and it's completely different of what we're trying to do, you know? So I just think for any capital project, we should always have 3 bids, and I would love to make sure we see all the bids to make sure that we understand what's going on, and if Wade's here, or, you know, however we wanna look at this, and say, hey, listen, why are we going with the middle of the road? Why are we going with the upper end? Why are we going with a little lower? You know, and kind of just have a little bit of an idea so we can make a better decision, you know, moving forward for the district.
All right, so we will share some of that information with you regarding different options for that first item there. And then we also have the other bids for other things, so we can share those with you as well.
Yeah, and of course, we're up against
A
time
timeline,
frame,
yeah. Christine and I will work on
Right.
it tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. All right, awesome. Anything
How
else?
long does it take to get these bids?
Depends on your contact and
How much you annoy them to get them?
Days, weeks, years?
How fast does the company wanna work with, is really what it comes down to.
Right.
Because we won't know anything till October anyways, right? And until we get the money allocated at town meeting, we can't do a damn thing, so.
Right, but we have to meet on it with capital, so we meet and vote on it.
Right, but I mean, I think, to Nick's point, we're not gonna look and say, let's go with somebody higher than what we already
Yeah.
have, right? So, I mean, the question is there somebody who comes in at a lower price with as good a product or maybe a better totality of a product?
Absolutely.
So-
Yeah. Yeah, we have a little bit of time, so it just depends on how quick.
putting this forward to the capital committee. We're not required to go with any of the vendors that are noted here.
Okay.
So,
Just guidance.
these are examples, and so I agree that, you know, you're not gonna go higher than that number.
We're not under the
so-
gun for October 23rd.
And then the school department is scheduled to be at Capitol for next Wednesday, the 20th.
And just to air concerns, or ease concerns rather, the fire protection at the Norton Middle School is completely fine.
So it is currently 100%
Certified
functional.
and good to go.
Certified and good to go. We have had all of our fire inspections over the last 8 days. Wade is walking with the deputy chief, and everything is 100% functional. We want to make sure that we stay that way.
Would it be helpful, I know it says it in the Simmons, or not Simon's.
We've said it every other way
We have
tonight.
Would it be helpful to do like in the notes there, like plus additional electrician fee? Just because I think, yes, this is $127.55, but it's really not $127.55. You know what I mean, like.
And then, like, that's the other thing, we gotta, like,
We're gonna appropriate
this is gonna
that
put a lot of
right.
work on Wade, because now we're gonna have to bring an electrician. But obviously gonna probably bring a bigger company who's gonna be able to bang this out in a week or 2 or whatever it is. It also says something in here about working 8 to 5 only.
Yeah.
That's gonna be difficult while we're in school. So like, I think like that needs to be looked at, because we're looking, I mean, we know how much things are going up now. You wanna talk about something going up, electrical costs are going through the roof, you know? So bringing that in, that number could be $60 extra thousand too, you know, just for the electrical.
Yeah.
But, and just, when we get additional quotes, just kind of keeping that in mind too, like these other quotes may include the electrician, I don't know, you know what I mean, like, so kind of having that kind of big picture of it all, I think will be helpful.
Certainly.
So we come.
I don't know, but, I mean, what are we voting on? We don't know what we're voting on.
So,
Voting on the request.
Just
Right.
the request.
The request, yes.
Right.
I mean,
We're not
I
locking
think,
into
yeah.
any
right,
vendors.
because
we're
the
just-
prices and vendors can change, it's just the request of what we're putting
Got it.
forward.
Right, we're,
And yes,
we're,
okay.
we're voting on, that we as a school committee agree that
These are the-
this is
These
our
are
capital
the goals.
improvement priorities and whatever.
Correct?
I'm
Yes.
fine with voting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes?
we don't attach any monetary value,
Right.
it's just our recommendation to the capital improvements committee.
Okay. So anything else? Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the capital plan, the FY '24 capital plan?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. All right, and then I think next is town meeting warrants. Oh, you're up again. Christine.
This is very quick.
Yeah.
We have no town meeting warrant articles.
You did a great job on that one. That's very good.
Yeah.
Short and sweet.
Good. Yes, we like that.
When the warrant articles were due, we had some summer savings, so we didn't do a supplemental appropriation, but we're gonna keep our articles out of the budget for the spring meeting.
That's great news, especially where we were at, a couple of our last meetings last year, so that's great to hear. Okay, and then do we have anything other under
I have no other business unless the committee does.
The only question I wanted to ask is, especially because our select board is talking about it, how many students are in district from the Norton Extended Stay?
Sure. At this time, we have 4 students that are currently at the extended stay in Norton, that are enrolled here. We have 2 kindergartners, I believe 1 4th grader and 1 student at the middle school. So, while I think there's about 25 or so families that are there, right now only 4 of the children are school age. There is a large number of children between birth and age 3.
So just a question on that, because I hadn't heard from any of the select board members that they were questioning it. Is it a discussion at their meeting,
I
or?
think it's on their meeting agenda.
It's on the meeting agenda.
There's,
Yep.
there's a task force being set up for every town that hold, like, for example, our neighbors in Mansfield are holding like a clothing drive prior to their football. So every town has like they call it a migrant task force by town.
So has anyone reached out to the schools to be a
Yeah, so
part of that?
the migrant task force actually met yesterday. I was there as the school representative, with Mike Units, the Board of Health, building commissioner, police, fire, as well as the director of human services. And we were just sharing information that we have. So, for example, the Department of Education has reimbursement funding for schools. So as of right now, they have $1,000 per student that we can use for any immediate necessities for the children. So it could be clothes, it could be a hotspot for them to have Wi-Fi access at home. It could be a device. We already provide all of our children with devices, so we're all set there. Really anything that may be needed. And then quarterly, we will go through a reimbursement process. It's $104 per student per day, which ends up being, if they're here for the entire year, roughly about $18,000 of a per pupil reimbursement.
Okay.
And that is for day-to-day educational costs.
So I know there's some younger kids, none of them would be in Little Lancers, correct?
Not at this
Not
time.
quite there, okay. So I know my friends at the early intervention are there often.
Yes.
So if we're going $18,000 from the state, if they're here for the year,
Mhm.
that actually is more than we spend per pupil in our district.
Welcome to democracy.
It's the first time.
First time.
First time ever we're not getting screwed.
So, and I think the next meeting on the 28th, it's a joint meeting,
With the finance committee, correct?
right, and the select board, correct?
Just the
Or
finance
Just the
committee
finance,
has
okay,
requested.
okay.
I mean, if you'd like to invite the select board, we certainly can. We'll just find a bigger space. It's totally up to you.
And from a planning purposes, and you might not know this off the top of your head, 0 to 3 over there, do we know how many roughly? So maybe that's quite significantly more.
I don't know the exact number, but I've heard roughly a dozen children. I know there are a few have been born since they were placed there. And at this time, all the families are placed through the end of February, and then they will reevaluate the situation.
Okay.
and we don't expect any more. I know like there was an article, Foxborough's getting like 40 families next week.
Not
do
at
we
this
know?
time. I think that, unfortunately, the extended stay is not a large facility. And so.
There's quite a few residents at the old Holiday Inn that are there. That they would be affected to
Captain Taunton.
Yeah, so
Which is a
it's
Clarion.
actually the Clarion in Taunton
Clarion
now.
Taunton.
There's 200 rooms
Yep.
that are housing migrant families at this time. So, talking with other superintendents in the area, we have 4. Mansfield right now has 12. Foxborough has 28. So the numbers aren't as large as they originally projected, but everyone has a little bit of the pie, and the students that are here with us are doing very well. Very limited English, so they're working really closely with our English language teachers. But they seem to have been assimilated into our classrooms very well, which is great to see.
So I think next week too, our meeting starts at 6, but then we go into joint meeting at 7.
At 7, correct,
I think,
yeah.
I don't know for what, I think whenever I think of joint meeting, I always think of all 3 boards. I mean, I
Yes.
think,
Did FinCom request to meet
It
with
was
us?
sorry. please.
yeah,
It was a request by FinCom. They wanted to meet with us at the beginning of the year to get an understanding of what our financial situation is for this year and what we think we would need for FY25.
I just think, where it's historically, since I've been here, is we've done all 3 of our boards
Yeah,
together.
I can't recall just one off.
It wasn't, yeah, so I think in my head I was just thinking that it was all 3 of us, so would you mind reaching out and just inviting them?
Sure.
I don't know if they already have a meeting or whatever, but I think
They're
to
Wednesdays
start,
now.
huh? Are they Wednesdays?
Select board is
What are we
meeting
I
tonight.
think that Thursday.
Select Board's Thursday.
We're meeting tonight.
Yeah, so maybe it would line up that we could at least join together, but I just think especially if we're talking about budget and needs, I think that having everybody in the room at one time is usually more beneficial than, because it turns into a telephone game. Awesome, thank you. All right, does anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I do. I'll be quick, I promise. I just wanted to give an update for CPAC. They had their first meeting on Tuesday, and future meetings will be on the first Tuesday of every month, starting at 6 p.m. at the high school auditorium. Immediately following the meetings, they're going to do their talk over tacos at Fiestas in Norton. So a little bit of a change this year compared to last year with their schedule. The biggest thing I think that CPAC is trying to do this year is really to expand and gain more members and community involvement, and they have lots of really fun things planned. So keep an eye out on Parent Square for updates and ways that you can be involved. They should be at all of the curriculum nights, or they're going to attempt to be at all the curriculum nights. They'll have a table out, so hopefully families can get more information that way. Their Heart of Gold nomination papers will be out soon. They're going to have guest speakers 3 times a year, and I'm pretty excited about this one. They are going to have a float at the Halloween parade this year. So they will be looking for candy donations. They will be updating their newsletters, so keep an eye out. NortonCPAC.com is their website, and cpacnorton@gmail.com is their email if anybody's looking to contact them. They're a great resource. They'll be doing lots this year, and I look forward to keeping everybody updated.
Thank you. All right, anything else?
Do you have any issues with the rain, flooding, leaking?
We do have a few leaks that have taken place over the last few days. Specifically in one classroom at LG Norris, and then a small leak as well at GCS. So you'll notice that on our capital plan, the Yale School, LG Norris, and the Norton Middle School are all down for future MSBA projects around new roofs. Our facilities department always does an incredible job about, cleaning everything up and making sure that students are able to continue to learn, and sometimes we get a little bit creative in terms of how we do so with piping and things like that. So just a few little things. Especially because it was quite a lot of rain.
That's
So
good. Good job, I guess.
Just something that I thought of, and I know I put it on our list of things to talk about, but somebody said it today about, I think you said it, about being virtual.
Yep.
Is there an option? No, okay. All right. That's a good time.
Well, I mean, again, it's not really up to me. I can tell you what we have for limitations in terms of the technology. I think our number one issue is we don't have microphones at each seat.
Okay.
If we could get something, and I can certainly look into that and perhaps do a Norton Media Center grant. But I feel as though with our DHH population, and we would need to have an interpreter,
Okay.
if we did something virtually, they struggled hearing because
Yes.
we
Okay.
like each other and we have a lot of banter, right? And we're
Right.
talking and quickly, and it's very, very difficult
Okay.
for the translator
Okay.
or the
I've just been
interpreter, I
asked a
should
few
say.
times, so I did, the question, what, did you get the gist of what I was asking?
Can we do a virtual?
Yeah, the people were asking if there was a way to be able to watch it virtually, not that there would be interaction, but just for them to tune in and watch it virtually. So I just figured the first meeting I would mention it to see if there was an option, but that makes sense.
So if they didn't wanna interact, then just watch the video, right?
Then that
And
could
it's-
be an open town meeting law violation.
No, not if they watch the video.
If they watch the video after, like,
Yeah.
I'm saying they
But
can't
what
watch
I'm
it
saying-
live and not be able to interact, that would be a violation.
But like, what does select board and all these other boards in town do? Like,
Only
you can
FinCom is
watch,
virtual.
you can watch Zoom though,
You can Zoom.
right?
They're
You can
still,
Zoom
yeah,
right
they're
here.
still zooming.
But yeah, so like, could we Zoom without breaking a open meeting law? And if we're a little fast and we go quickly, too bad, show up in person, but at least they get to see something on Zoom.
Because we host the deaf and hard of hearing program here in town, we have a lot of families that need that interpreting access. So it's
Double
about
check it.
equity and access for families.
So realistically, it should be on the town, it should be
Should be on the
happening.
town.
Right, it should be the same,
Theoretically.
Well, hopefully when
Right.
we have a new town hall, we have a brand new state of the art thing, we'll be able to get in there.
yeah, that's a great plan, Nick.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I know that there was some discussion last year about perhaps hosting meetings instead of at the middle school library at Norton Media Center that has the facilities. So I'm just throwing that out for a conversation to ponder.
It's not a bad idea.
I'm not opposed to it because I think a lot of questions can be answered, especially from our side, when we could just say, hey, go to the Zoom, it was at 38 minutes, there's your question, there's it answered. So I wouldn't be opposed. We have to go somewhere anyway, and if that works for everybody, I wouldn't be opposed to that at all.
That would be a conversation that we could have with Jason Benjamin.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just something that's been brought up to my attention a few
For
times.
sure.
So I thought maybe it's just worth discussing, but then, like Dan said with the open meeting, like how, do we just do a Zoom where people can't interact with, like, how do we
No.
do that?
It would just be a live feed, right?
It would be a live
Zoom would be
feed.
a live feed, but you'd also have to give them the opportunity to interject and ask questions, or else you violate open meeting law.
Well, then how did we do it on cable 20 years ago?
So I think,
was just a- it
so
was
I think here's the thing,
a
I think,
recorded meeting,
can
wasn't
we
live.
ask, can we get clarification
Absolutely.
on that? I think we need to, cause I know there were a lot of rules like through the COVID times of what we could and couldn't do as far as Zoom and live and all that stuff. But why don't we just get clarification from whoever,
Yeah,
legal or
absolutely.
whoever, and see
Oh,
what
yeah.
we, and then at the same time, talk with Norton Media to see if there's, if we have to have meetings there, we do. We like to be able to go into our schools, but at the end of the day, we're always at the middle school, so it's not like we're seeing,
Right.
I like
You
this
could do your
tour.
tour and then.
Right.
Correct.
Right,
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, let me get you some information on that.
alright, that would be great. Alright, anybody have anything else?
Just off the cuff, do we have less buses this year
No,
parked?
we have the
Like,
same number of buses.
Same number? Really?
Some are here and some are parked at the middle school.
Okay.
So why the change in where they're parking?
Because there's just not enough space here, especially in the afternoons with all of the sports that are happening.
People are parking here
People
for
are
no
out, the
purpose.
buses were out on their routes, and then people are coming in parking to watch
Oh.
soccer or
Yeah.
Whatever's on the field.
whatever's happening here, and then they come back and there's nowhere for them to park the buses. So we divided them in half park here, half park at the middle school.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay, so I'm not losing my mind, that's good.
Yeah.
It does look like there's less, yes.
I've
literally been asking myself the question for 2
Yeah.
weeks.
That question still stands, but
Right.
no, there are not,
And I think especially, fall and spring, just with the amount of volume that we're seeing on a day-to-day basis of students here in the afternoon, families here watching games, this parking lot is
Fills up
full.
fast.
Wow.
Which is wonderful to see. And the high school parking lot is full. It's, the buses just take up a huge amount of space because they can't all fit along that front lane.
Yeah, Okay, makes sense.
Perfect capital project.
Yeah, add one on. All right, now anything else? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all, thanks for coming.
Bye.